And we were talking about further in the Frierdiker Rebbe's Maimer over there in Ois Yudalad, we were speaking about how the Eire in Sof comes down to the lowest most level, and still, while coming down to the lowest most level, it doesn't become changed. We gave the example of light shining through a colored lens, through colored glass, that the fact that it's shining through the colored glass does not affect it in any way, does not make it in any way change the light itself, though it illuminates through those different colors and manifests those different colors. And that's what we say, Ein Kodesh Kavaya, that even though there's many levels of Kodesh, but here you can have both things together. You could, the oil of Havaya comes down as mislabish, and at the very same time that it's mislabish, it's not affected by its place. So now, the Rebbe is going to go on to explain on line 12, page Lamed Beis, the second paragraph, a little bit more an understanding of this, how come, why that is so, why it's not affected, why it's not changed by wherever it comes down to. The idea behind this is, like the Rebbe Rashab explains, at length, the difference between the two ideas of Oir and Koyach. Oir is an illumination, but it's light the way it's connected to the luminary. The light is connected to the light source. You cannot cut it off. Koyach, on the other hand, is something that could even leave the person. So, for example, my koyach, let's say my hand, could push and move a ball in flight, even though the ball is now separated from me, and that koyach that's obviously moving it is separated from me as well. Even the most highest thing in a person, the idea of intellect, it's the beginning of revelation from the essence of the soul. It's not in such a way of a undiluted and non-complex simple light. It's in a way of koyach. Koyach already indicates the idea of koyach, like we say, there's the soul powers. These mean that there's already something that has a change, and it's something that affects it. That's the reason why in Seichel there are different levels in intellect. There's an inner type of level of intellect, and there's an external type of intellect. Seichel amuk, seichel shitchi. There is a deep seichel, and there's a superficial type of seichel. And the idea that there are these differences in seichel is a difference that is in the very fabric of the seichel itself. He's going to explain. It's not just something that's because of external factors that the seichel has this. So he says, this idea that there is deeper sichlim, weaker sichlim, more superficial, more inner, more outer. It's not just how refined, how worked through my physical brain is. That someone whose intellect or his brain is more refined and more clarified could receive within him a deeper. He is the kalim to be able to accept and receive a deeper idea. If not, he can only receive and take in an external type of idea, or only a superficial idea. Because if we will say, now in the footnote he says that even though it's possible to say so, he brings some Samach Vav in footnote Yud Zayin, but still in all, it's not true that that is the determining factor. So he says, if we will say it's only because of how refined the vessels of the intellect are, of the vessels of the brain are, it would not be possible to be such a thing, that first a person should be able to comprehend a more inner, more internal type of idea, and only afterwards a more external idea. From the perspective of the refinement and the clarity of the vessels of the brain. Who the order is, the more a person works with his physical brain, and he therefore comprehends more, he comes up with more ideas and so on. He is supposed to, based on that type of thing, the more you work on the vessel, the more it should receive more of the light of the intellect. Therefore, it's not right, it's not correct, an opposite order. That first the person will grasp a more internal type of idea. And only afterwards he will grasp a more external type of idea, or a seichel that's more superficial, more external. But what the Rebbe is implying, and this is also from a Maimer, the Rebbe Rashab, is that it's not that way. That we do find that a person will sometimes hit on a very deep point before he will appreciate or grasp an external aspect of it. If it had to do with how clear or how much he's refining his mind, so the deeper you go into it, the more you're refining your intellect, the more you're able to reach the idea. So he says, we can't say, that the reason why he first grasps the deeper, more inner concept, and afterwards the more external concept, top of page Lamed Gimel. Now he's dealing in that particular topic. It says when a person is involved in one Masechta, you shouldn't ask him a question in a different Masechta. So perhaps, even though, let's say, certain Masechtas are easier and certain Masechtas are more difficult, maybe Sukkah might be an easier Masechta than Masechtas Erevin. Still in all, we don't say, so perhaps that's the reason why at the moment he's getting this deeper idea of Masechtas Erevin, because he's in the middle of Erevin. He's not in the middle of Masechtas Sukkah. And he's not involved in a different Masechta that has to do with the more external type of idea. So the Rebbe brings from the Rebbe Rashab, no, we find that this is true even in the same topic, even in the same Masechta, Shari on the Roim, sometimes we see Shagam Ba'isa in Sichli in the very same topic, in the very same idea, he will first comprehend the inner details of the idea, and then only afterward we'll find the same topic and the same idea, we will find that he grasps the external details of this particular idea, this particular concept. Therefore we must say that the difference in the receiving and taking in of the idea is not only how refined his intellectual kelim are, how refined his physical brain is. There are also changes and differences in the seichel itself. That's why it's called the koyach of seichel, not the oira seichel, as one of the koyachas hanefesh, because koyach is susceptible to changes, to differences. As opposed to the idea of light, Though there are differences between sunlight, moonlight, candlelight, torchlight, there are different types of lights. So what are you telling me? Oh, seichel, you see, there's the differences and changes, and that's koyach, but light has no changes. So he says, it's not like the change of the difference of an inner type of idea or an external type of idea. It's not that the light itself is essentially something, a different, the rules of light are different over here, for example. Because this light is associated with a great luminary, which is the sun. And this light is associated with a minor luminary, which is the moon. And this light is associated with and results from a candle, results from a torch. For this reason, they are distinct and different one from another. It's not the very quality and nature of light that is different between moonlight versus sunlight and so on. As opposed to seichel. Seichel is a different quality. There's a pnimi, there's a chitzoni, and so on. And over there, the Rebbe Rashab continues, another change seems to be that the sunlight is not as luminous and as bright. The lower it goes and the further it goes from the sun, then the closer it is to the sun. So again, it's not a change in the sunlight itself. It's not a change in the light itself. Is because the sun is also a created entity and it has its own body. And because it has its own body and its own entity, so therefore what it gives off is in such a way that it'll dissipate after time and distance. The Rebbe in the footnote says in Yud Ches, in the Hebrew footnote on the bottom, it says, in addition to this, the reason why it doesn't shine so much down here below is not only because as it goes over distance, it dissipates, it becomes less. It's not the light itself. It's because of the particles, because of other things are to be found in the air, in the atmosphere that's down here below, that interferes with the clarity and the power of the light. Okay, as it's known, because of the physicality of the existences down here below in our physical world, it becomes dust and other types of particles in the atmosphere. Because of that, the light is not so bright as we go lower and lower. Back to the text, line 20. But by Hashem, we're talking about a light that is essentially Ein Sof, not like the light of the sun, which comes from a created body, a physical entity. Therefore, even when it comes down very much below, in such a way that has no end. He doesn't become intermingled. Einem is spoiled. He's not affected by the Einem Mishtan, and he's not changed as he goes down below, which is the whole point of what he's trying to say over here, that as low as it goes, it doesn't become impacted by and changed by what is going on down here. The conclusion of the chapter of Ois Yudalad is, any questions before we go on? The conclusion of the chapter is, that's what the Friedrich Rebbe goes on to say, this is the idea that the Ein Sof goes down below to no end. Should be spashtus to begilui gam beprot madregus hayosish fallen betachlis, that it expands and revealed even at the most lowest level, totally so. And the chapters in Basel Legani following Ois Yudalid, Messiah Bira in the Eidens of Lamayl and Ketz, he concludes the idea after explaining how Eidens Sof is Lamata Mata Den Tachlis, how low it goes. It concludes by saying how high up the Eidens Sof is. Shagam Sham Lubayf and Kazeh, also the way it's above, it's also in this manner. Whichever place it finds itself, it's in a way that it's unending. These two aspects, above to no end, below to no end, they're all still the level of light. And that's not going to be the ultimate thing, as he's going to explain, top of page Lamadalish in Yom Gilui. The idea of light is about revelation. Though the light is in such a manner that it's beyond the created beings. Therefore, like we said, even the light of the Ein Sof is completely beyond the worlds. So when it comes down into the worlds, it doesn't intermingle with the worlds. And it doesn't become affected by the worlds and doesn't become changed. But this is still not the treasure that he was speaking about earlier in the Maimer. That to be able to be victorious in the war, the army is given the treasure. A treasure is something that's concealed, that the king doesn't show anybody and was concealed by his parents and so on. It's not a matter of a revelation whatsoever. It's higher even than this Ein Sof, which does come down and is revealed. The Rebbe concludes, this treasure we give to Yid, because he's the army of Hashem. So he should go into war in the world. Beginning from the war with the foreign god that's within you, that's the Yetzer Hara. In such a way that Netzach, it's going on the building of Yerushalayim, as we said. It said, at first, Netzach, it's going on Yerushalayim. Hainu, this means, that every Yid is given, or thanks to his Netzach that's within him, the Netzach that's within him, he builds up his personal Yerushalayim. Yerushalayim is in the word Yerushalayim, complete bittul to Hashem. This is accomplished through its avoid in a way of self-sacrifice. Just that's the idea of the army, that they do things totally self-sacrifice. The idea of Mesiras Nefesh is higher even than the power of intellect, in the most highest level of intellect. That is the treasure of Yerushalayim that's revealed to the Yid to be able to accomplish what he needs to do in the war. That is latent and to be found essentially in every single Yid. Since he's a part of Hashem above Mamish, the level of the Yechidah. Why is this essence of the Yid called Yechidah? Because it's the feminine of the word Yachid, meaning feminine is the receiver of Yachid, the Eibishter himself, Yechidah Shalolim, the only one of the world, Hashem. When a Yid takes this treasure, and he spends it in his avodah of Mesiras Nefesh. In other words, he's playing off the fact that the king is mevazes the oitzris. He just gives the oitzer without any type of concern. The same thing, the Yid expends this oitzer also that he's given in a way of self-sacrifice. Then he's victorious in the war. Then he affects that we expend and we give away the treasures of above. And he's given all the wealth and preciousness, that it's even higher than the infinite light that's higher to no end and below to no end. This is also the general idea that's brought down the Medrash. He says that the Yidden are analogous to a case of a king going into the country, to a new country that he took over. There was along with the king all different types of officials, ministers, dukes, governors, etc., etc. One person from the new country said, I will take a duke to be my the one that's going to be my mentor, my protector, and so on. Top of page Lamed Hey. Another one said, I will take another type of official and so on to be my protector. There was one clever person over there. I will take the king himself. Like we find the service of the Alter Rebbe. That he said, who is for me in the heavens and with you? In other words, something subservient to you, sublimated to you. I don't want in the land. I do not want your lower Gan Eden. I do not want your upper Gan Eden. I only want you alone, Hashem himself. Like the Tzemach Tzedek related, and it also was printed, and through that became well known. The Indians and and this is demanded from every single one. They should desire the king himself. He should only want Hashem's essence. It's higher even than the level of the Ein Sof, that's beyond to no end, and it's below to no end. By connecting with Hashem's very essence, this affects in a Yid that he shouldn't become affected by the falsehood of the world. Just the opposite. Through his service in a way of self-sacrifice. The folly of Kedusha, going beyond rational reasoning in the service of Hashem. He transforms the sheker of the world into a beam for the Mishkan for Hashem, to make a home for Hashem. Through that he affects the idea that I will dwell amongst them. To make a home for the Eibishter down below. What's the idea of a dira? What's the idea of a home? That in the dira is found the essence of the king the way it is, and it's found over there in a revealed way. This is affected through I will dwell amongst them, amongst each and every Yid. I missed in the previous page, there was a footnote, Yutes, that it speaks about that they give him the treasures of above. So turn to the previous page, on page Lamed Daled. He says over there in footnote Yutes, if we could add, concerning the treasures of above, that they give a Yid when he does his avodah in a way of self-sacrifice, of tzivus Hashem and so on, they give him all the treasures. Is also included the general idea of godliness being revealed through tzaddikim. That is also part of the treasure. When tzaddikim reveal godliness in the world, that is a treasure to help the troops do what they have to do. This is especially so, not just through tzaddikim in general, but especially through Nasi Ador, the leader of the generation, Basar Reish Gufa Azul, that we know the body, which is the generation, follows the head of the generation, which is the Nasi Ador, the tzaddik of the Dor. Even when the tzaddik Ador, even when the Nasi Ador rises up in one ascent after another ascent to an ascent that's incomparable. In other words, like a tzaddik that after passing, he goes up higher and higher and higher in ways that we can't even comprehend. Mikol Makom, despite that, Lo Yaziv Tzoiv Marisa, it says he will never desert his flock that he takes out to shepherd. Just like before, in other words, when he was in the body, he was taking care of his flock, so to now he takes care of his flock as well. And therefore, since the body is drawn after the head, and the head is going up higher and higher, so we are also going up higher and higher. And the tzaddik draws down all these matters in a revealed way. In a visible and revealed good, and obviously without any suffering and pain and so on, until we see with our actual senses the revelation of the infinite light of Hashem in a manner that I will dwell, like it says, that the glory of Hashem will become revealed, and all flesh will see.